welcome to another movie review. I just got done seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This, of course, is the third Ant-Man film, and I think it's like the 31st movie in the MCU, because I think Wakanda Forever was number 30, so this would be 31. A lot of movies now, and then, of course, there's shows and stuff too. So we're getting pretty deep into the MCU now. This is Phase 5, the official start. First thing I need to say about this movie, you've noticed probably already that a lot of people have been giving this really bad reviews. Like, it's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and I believe there's only one other. Like, people are saying there's only two MCU movies that are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and this is one of them. Me personally, I don't really go off of Rotten Tomatoes. It's never been a website I go to at ever actually. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some credibility to it, I guess, because take audience scores, critic scores, and kind of blend the two. But at the same time, it's never been a go-to for me. First thing I need to say, this movie, at least in my opinion, obviously, it's not that bad. It's not. Come on. It's definitely bottom half of all the MCU movies for sure. Probably even in the bottom fourth. If you divide it in quarters, it might even be in the But to be honest, it's not that bad. It really isn't. I could see why some people didn't like it though, which I'll get into. Now, as I said, it's not bad. I actually did enjoy the movie. And the next thing I need to say, the second half of this film is much better than the first half. I don't know what was going on in the first half. I mean, it was just fine, but there were moments where I was like, this is not really fleshing out all that well. The pacing was kind of weird. The dialogue wasn't the greatest. The character work wasn't the greatest. But then, like I said, the second half, much better. I've seen some reviews where people are talking about Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. For me, it's not even about the acts. It's just literally, the middle of the second act, I guess you could say, which would be the halfway point of the movie. The second half of the movie is just better than the first half. That's just how I looked at it. So, first thing I need to say, well, I already said my first thing. Third thing I need to say, actually, the character of MODOK is very interesting. I'm sure all you guys are aware, Corey Stoll is playing MODOK. He was Yellow Jacket, of course, in the first film. And, not knowing anything about MODOK, to be honest, I've never been familiar with the character whatsoever. I'm pretty sure, I think, Patton Oswalt voices him in, the Hulu animated show or something like that for MODOK. I don't know anything about this character. I just know that I don't think he's meant to be Darren Cross. I don't think he's supposed to be MODOK, essentially, in any other version. They just happen to make him MODOK for the MCU. So not being a fan of the character, again, maybe that's another thing people didn't like. Maybe they're diehard MODOK fans and thought it was terrible or something. I thought the character was really fun, actually. The movie did not take him seriously whatsoever, which was great. I thought he was funny. I thought he was, again, say what you want about the CGI. Of course, going into this movie, judging by the trailers, people are like, oh my god, the CGI looks like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, or Spy Kids 3D or whatever. It looks horrible. No, most of the CGI in this movie was actually really good. A lot of the environments and creatures looked really awesome. It wasn't Avatar quality, obviously, but the CGI on MODOK, again, if turning this character into live action, he kind of has to look like that. There's no other way to do it. And I felt like the way they did do it was fine. Again, this movie is just fine. I'm going to use that word a lot in this review. That was literally the only way you could have done it, I think. And again, I thought it was okay. So yeah, MODOK, again, might be polarizing for some people. I've seen some reviews saying, oh, I hate him, and some reviews saying, I actually loved him, For me, he was just fine. He was fine. Now, as far as the Ant-Man films, it's been kind of weird. Because the first movie is just a standard, origin movie, but it's actually, it's got a lot of great comedy in it. Obviously Paul Rudd being the lead. And you got, the character of Lewis and, his whole little team. So the first Ant-Man movie is a really funny, pretty standard origin movie. Then the sequel was a very, it was the next film that came out after Infinity War, I remember. It was a very small-scale story that, had more, that gave Evangeline Lilly, the Wasp a bigger role, and also introduced, Michelle Pfeiffer back into the mix, her character. And, the second film was fine. Again, I'm going to use that word again to describe this trilogy, actually. This trilogy is just fine, but it's not very consistent, because now you get to the third movie, and it's totally different. Like, there's still comedy there, but it is very different from the first two movies. Like, it's a much bigger in scale, obviously. But I don't want people to... I'm thinking people are probably going into this thinking it's like an Avengers-level movie, and it really isn't. It is bigger in scale, yes, but... I mean, anything's bigger in scale than the Ant-Man movies, no pun intended. So, like, it's not, like, a huge movie. Again, this movie was just, like... Again, I don't want to disappoint anybody going into this, but, like, it's just standard scale, like, Marvel movie. Like, it's not like this gigantic thing. It does set up things, obviously. And another thing I gotta mention, some of the comedy did not land at all, which is kind of not good. Whereas there was a good portion of the comedy that did land, actually, and people were laughing, and it was really good. But again, it was like the first half of the movie had that, where it was like the comedy wasn't landing. The characters were like talking in circles, especially Janet, because there's this whole element of like they get to the quantum realm and they're trying to figure out what's going on and why don't you tell us what happened when you were down here for all these years and stuff. And she keeps talking. They just keep talking in circles. Like, it's like, all right, can you like reveal what's going on already? Like, you know what I mean? And when she finally does, things play out fine. Again. It was just really bugging me. I was like, okay, like, can we get to the, the meat and potatoes of this movie? Like, come on. And again, this standard Marvel movie, to be honest. Like, didn't hate it or anything. It was just fine. As far as like all three movies go, I feel like the first Ant-Man is definitely the best one. The second one, literally only seen it twice. I watched it once in theaters. I watched it the second time on Blu-ray, and I never rewatched it. I normally rewatch, like if I'm going into like a sequel, I'll rewatch the movies, going in like before, like a few days before, like normally. But I just didn't get around to it. So like literally, I would have watched the first two Ant-Mans like a few days ago to hype myself up for this, but I just didn't get around to it. So I need to give the second movie another watch, but I do remember giving it like an 8 out of 10 or something like that, because it was just fine, it wasn't like bad. It was just fine. And this one, again, I'm going to give this one an 8. I feel like the first Ant-Man's probably like an 8.5. Again, I can't remember what I rated those, exactly. You'd have to check my Letterboxd, and this will be on there as well. There's a whole ranking of all the movies too, so you'll see where I place this one. At the moment, I don't know. I have to go and do it still, obviously. So again, this is definitely in the bottom. Might be in the bottom quarter of the MCU. Again, I'm not saying I don't want to disappoint people. It's just this is my honest opinion, and it's not as bad as others are saying. Like it's not a 50%. I'm like it's not that bad. So, and of course, I got to talk about Jonathan Majors as Kang. That's what everybody's going to talk about. The guy, I've already praised him to death in other videos. He is an excellent actor, and again, he is great in this. He was intimidating, and I can't wait to see all the other versions of Kang we're going to get in, Loki and in, Avengers, and it's going to be wild. It's going to be cool. This guy's really going to he's got a range, he can do all kinds of, he can do serious, he can do comedic, he can do all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I can't wait to see what happens there. Again, I won't talk spoilers until the end of the video, like I normally do. So I won't mention anything specific. People have also been talking about the post-credit scenes, complaining about them, and again, I feel like people are just bashing this movie. The post-credit scenes, I like them. They weren't mind-blowing. I think I like the second one more than the first one. I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, they weren't like, I don't know, I feel like people are probably they probably overhyped themselves with this, thinking it's like an Avengers level movie when it's not. So I think that's what the main problem is. And another thing I gotta mention too, some of the characters have character arcs which, do get fulfilled, but they're not like amazing. And then some of the characters have literally like no character arc, but again, this is just a standard movie. Like it's okay. Like it's fine. Like for example, the Wasp. Like she doesn't really have an arc at all. So again, I guess you can't give everybody an arc, so it's okay. I would say Janet has an arc, Kang has an arc, Scott has an arc, and Cassie has an arc. Those are the big four main ones that have an arc in this. Michael Douglas, of course, as Hank Pym was great. I enjoyed him a lot. Again, at first he wasn't really doing much, and then the movie goes along and he has more to do. So again, the movie just kind of started off kind of weak for me. Yeah, it was weird. Like when they got to the quantum realm is what I'm referring to, because they get there pretty quickly, and it takes a minute to, but yeah. Again, I'll give this movie an 8 out of 10. I was kind of leaning towards maybe I might give it a 7.5, but I could see myself rewatching this one. Maybe yeah, I could see myself rewatching this, and that's important. Yeah, I would rewatch this more than probably the second movie. I think I don't know. So yeah, this one's an 8 for me. Again, if people think that's like a really high score or think I'm out of my mind or something, whatever. I mean, again, it's just fine. Like, yeah, I gave Morbius a 7, People think that's probably crazy, right? Still, I've only seen Morbius once. I still haven't rewatched it. But yeah, that's about it, I think. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, again, this is not a summer blockbuster. This is a release in February. You got to keep that in mind. The movies that come out in February, they can be somewhat big in scale. Like I remember Black Panther came out in February. That was a much better movie, obviously. But like, it's not like an Avengers level movie. Those are saved for the summertime. So yeah, this one again, 8 out of 10 for me. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments. I'm gonna talk spoilers now. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should have mentioned. That's a non-spoiler. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything. Go give the movie a chance. Like, it's not as bad as everybody says. So spoiler time. Leave the video if you haven't seen the movie. So yeah, let's get into it. So I like the way that, Ant-Man legitimately defeated Kang in this movie, which I really enjoyed that. Because, you think Ant-Man against Kang, like, there's no way. But the movie made me, yeah, like, they actually defeated this guy, which is really cool. Again, it's only one version of him. But it was nice to see that, and I was really hoping for cameos from Lewis and T.I.'s character, and David Dastmalchian, who actually voices the jelly guy or whatever, the one with the holes. Again, that's a joke that did land. So it was cool that they gave him like a cameo. They could have gave those guys like vocal cameos. I can understand you can't include those characters because it's a totally different movie, but it just felt weird because as a trilogy, but yeah, and the post-credit scenes. So the first one, again, it was just showing all the Kangs, which, I can see why some people are probably let down by that. It's like, okay, we know there's a bunch of Kangs. Like, we don't need to really see that. You know what I mean? People were probably saying in the reviews, like, oh, this could have just been a scene in the movie. Like, at the end of the movie. It didn't need to be a post-credit scene. Yeah, I could see that, But again, for a movie like this, it's fine. It's okay. Like, I think it did its job as a post-credit scene. And then the final scene at the very end, it was basically footage from Loki season 2, which again, I'm excited about that because that can go on all kinds of directions. And it was interesting because I was like, this is an Ant-Man scene because it starts off. You can tell it takes place like 100 years ago or something like that, like 1800s or something, 1900. I don't know. And there's a variant of Kang who's like demonstrating like electricity, like his technology or whatever. So it's interesting. I mean, I was like, oh, this is a scene in Ant-Man. Oh, wait, never mind. It's footage from Loki. So I can't wait for that. But yeah, other than that, I really don't have much else to say. Like, those are the big spoilers, really. This movie, again, was very simple. The scene with, the multiple Scotts and all that was fun. I enjoyed that. MODOK, again, his death actually kind of hit me, again, this character, you're supposed to laugh at him, but he actually had like a heroic death, and again, I could see why they just kind of got rid of him, because it's like, this character, again, I don't know anything about MODOK, but I feel like they just wanted to like, okay, we had MODOK in the MCU, we could say we did the character, alright, and here we give him a heroic moment, and now he's gone, so, Yeah, it was interesting, I guess. I don't know. Didn't love the character, but I was fine with it. So again, this movie is just fine. Um, but yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you rank all three Ant-Man films? What is your rating for this movie? Um, and is there anything I should have touched on that I didn't touch on? I think I pretty much talked about everything. So yeah, that's about it. The next Marvel thing, I know Guardians comes out in May. I think we have Secret Invasion is coming out before that. I think I kind of forgot the release order of stuff. I know Loki season 2 is supposed to be in the summer, and I think we're getting the Marvels, which is Captain Marvel sequel. I'm sure everybody's excited about that. I'm actually kind of excited about that. I ain't gonna lie. Um, but that's supposed to come out in July too, I think, around summertime. So yeah, and then I think we're supposed to get a What If season 2 this year. I kind of forgot everything that was coming out. Um, yeah, I'm totally blanking, but yeah. Again, it's not as we're not getting stuff as frequently as we were back in like remember in 2021 we got so much Marvel stuff. Last year we got a lot of stuff too, but like I feel like things have slowed down big time. So we'll just see. Again, this is not. I guess this isn't really a great start to Phase 5, but at the same time, I did not have an issue with Phase 4 like a lot of other people did. Like, I feel like people were just bashing Phase 4, like, ridiculously. Was it my favorite phase? No. Phase 3 is still the best phase. Phase 4, probably neck and neck with, like, Phase 2, you know. Phase 1's not bad by any means, but it's just the least best phase because it's the smallest, you know. But yeah, the Phase 4 like was fine. Like you guys need to like calm down. Did it have its misses? Yeah, it had its hits and misses. Yes, but it's not as bad as everybody says. Just like this movie. But anyways, that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. And the next movie coming out, I'm gonna be reviewing is Creed 3 for sure. I think that's in 2 weeks, and then Scream 6 after that. I might go see Cocaine Bear. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about that one. So, but yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching and have a good one. Bye bye.